So the head coach says there's 11 games left. I thought there were 8.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts on a Tuesday, November 12th and a Wednesday, November 13th. We are here. We are getting you ready for Lions and Jaguars later on this week with T-Wig, Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On Jaguars. We'll do the Thursday crossover today. John Kosko is going to join us from Pro Football Focus. Excited to have John on the program. Locked On Lions today is proudly sponsored by Ultimate GM. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We are back on Threads at The Real Matt Derry. And if you want to be a part of the show and be a call of the day, please hit up our SpeakPipe voicemail system at SpeakPipe, PIPE.com/Derry podcast page. Leave a voicemail about a minute or so long or shorter. Keep it clean. Appreciate the everydayers that are out there that do that and have taken good care of us. Shout out to a couple of new everydayers here on Locked On Lions. The combination of Lindsay and Adam Partridge. Lindsay is awesome. Just recently met her. Financial advisor over at Merrill. Her and her husband Adam, big Lions fan, so shout out to them. All right, coming up on the program today, mentioned John Costco's with us from Pro Football Focus, but big news, Dan Campbell on his radio hit this morning on the Costa and Jansen program on 97.1 The Ticket. 97.1. He was on this morning, and he said, we got 11 games left. And I heard this clip, and I'm like, 11? Lions are 8-1. That's 9. There are 8 games left in the regular season, right? I'm right here. We got Jacksonville, Indy, Chicago, Green Bay, Buffalo, Bears, Niners, and Vikings. The Bears home and home. That's 8. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute. Dan Campbell's got some confidence in his bunch. He's got some, this isn't cockiness, this is confidence. 11 games left means they play the last 8. They have a first round bye in the playoffs, so they're going to be the 1 seed. And then 9, 10, 11 is first round in the divisional round, NFC Championship, Super Bowl. Dan Campbell has confidence. This team is going to be playing in the big game in New Orleans. Don't you hate on the radio when they go, the big game in New Orleans in February. And why shouldn't he feel this way? The Lions have been the best team in the NFC this season. Arguably the best team in all the NFL. The point differential blows the Chiefs out the water. They've won 7 straight games, even when they haven't played well. Sunday night in Houston, still won. And he's got this kind of confidence in him and in his team that they can come back and win any game, no matter how badly they play. Jared Goff, I saw, was interviewed by Jason Garrett on NBC the other night on the pregame, and he just said, look, we follow Dan Campbell. Dan has been even-keeled and the same, and he's acted the same, and he's been the same around the players, even when we were 0-8 to start his first year, and now look where they are. They're 8-1. So I love the confidence that's there with Dan Campbell, and he's done a heck of a job, man. And now this week, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be 9-1. Next week in Indianapolis, they've been a tire fire, 10-1. Thanksgiving Day against the Bears, time for the Lions to win on Thanksgiving. You're thinking what, maybe 11-1 when the Packers come to town for the Thursday nighter. Man, this is just so exciting. Quick note before we get to John from PFF, talk a little Pro Football Focus and everything else that goes on with the Lions. A couple of roster moves over the weekend. Isaiah Williams was waived. The wide receiver, they needed to make room on the roster for other guys and injuries on the defense. And so receiver Isaiah Williams, who, kind of was like the new Mr. August. He was great during the preseason, was waived and then claimed by the Cincinnati Bengals. According to reports today, the Lions are signing Maurice Alexander, who's been on and off this roster for a few years, the wide receiver to their practice squad. They also today waived linebacker Abraham Beauplan, who was actually active this past week because the Lions were without Rodrigo and Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Now he has been waived. Isaiah Thomas was also waived the other day, who they picked up around the trade deadline, of course, from the Bengals. But they could bring, if Beauplan and Thomas both clear waivers, they could both be back on the practice squad because the Lions have 2 practice squad openings right now. Regardless, all these guys and all these bit players and bottom line is the Lions' best players need to continue to be their best players. Penei Sewell was dominant the other day. Frank Ragnow had a big day. We talked about Jared Goff coming back from the 5 interceptions. St. Brown, the running backs, Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. As long as those guys are healthy and playing well, sky's the limit, certainly, for this football team. All right, John Kosko is going to join us from Pro Football Focus. We'll get his thoughts on the Lions coming up next right here on a Tuesday edition of The Lockdown. And today's show brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. Hey, Lions fans, remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro GM? Yeah, well, they're back, and they've added an amazing new game mode I need to tell you about. The game that has you stepping into the shoes of a football franchise GM and leading it to glory now has a new head coach career mode. That's right. So on top of getting to build your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and hiring a coaching staff, you can also get to call plays during games as well. Additionally, you'll dig the new tools you can work with such as individual training camps and upgraded negotiating systems. So it's fun and realistic. And this game just got a lot better. If you already have it installed, be sure to do an update so you can try out the all-new mode. If you don't have it yet, download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. I love it. I know you will too. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free. Oh, he's free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. So you can play on the go as you want and when you want to. Here's a special offer for Locked On Lions listeners. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL in all caps inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage you'll want in creating a dynasty. Download the game by visiting ultimate-gm.com. That's ultimate-gm.com, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. And Locked On Lions brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Tonight, Pistons Heat, the NBA Cup. Let's go. Put some money down on the Stones at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, as promised here on Locked On Lions for a Tuesday, let's check in with our buddies from Pro Football Focus. John Kosko from PFF, an analyst with them, joins us today. Don't forget PFF Plus, folks. It's got you covered all season long with the best data, tools, and analysis in the game. Sign up for PFF Plus today to unlock all of their famous player grades and premium stats. You guys know every Monday we do the PFF top 5 and bottom 5 from the Lions on offense and defense, and I am a subscriber of PFF. Push to the playoffs in your fantasy league with in-season tools and award-winning rankings from fantasy expert Nathan Yonke, and stay connected to the next generation of talent with the best NFL draft coverage on the planet. No matter what you're looking for, PFF Plus is what you need to make winning decisions all season long. Sign up for PFF Plus today for less than $10 per month. John Kosko, hello, sir. How are you?
I am doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We got to give a shout out to our buddy at Fantasy Points, the legendary Brett Whitefield, who apparently is a very close friend of yours, and was texting me today going, "You having John on the show?" I said, "Yes, I am." So here we are.
Hello, Brett. Good. Glad we could have an acquaintance, and do this. So,
well, Brett's a great numbers man and knows the Lions in and out. We got to have him back on. He is an everydayer. He always checks us out. We appreciate Brett's thoughts. All right, first and foremost, Thoughts on the Lions, where they are at 8-1, and are they the best team in the NFL in your mind, or is it still the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're having a great season. As people that are watching the YouTube channel or on stream that way, they see the Browns gear that I'm wearing right now, the brown
Yes.
shirt. So obviously I'm a Browns fan, but I do appreciate and love to see what the Lions are doing, building that team and then how it's all coming together this year because, we have a long shared history of pain and this year, obviously the Browns have more pain this year, but it's good to see that the Lions are having a lot of success and hopefully that leads to, Super Bowl appearance. And I think they are, I don't know if they are the best team, but they definitely have played like the best team this year. You look at how strong that their victories have been. They've been blowing out opponents. Obviously they went down big against the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football and then had the nice comeback. That's the DNA of a team that can win a Super Bowl. And really what matters is you're playing your best football in the playoffs. This is a team that's built to be able to do that. And I think they have a really strong defense. Obviously losing Aiden Hutchinson, which is like the biggest kind of thing there, hurts a lot, but they, acquiring Zydus Smith really kind of helps there to kind of patch some things. It's obviously not Aiden Hutchinson. So they have a strong defense. And offensively, they're one of the best if Jared Goff just decides to not throw 5 picks in a game.
Where are you on Goff? Because the Goff haters and the people that make fun of Goff are probably having a field day right now after that performance where he did not play well. And it was in front of a national TV audience and prime time and NBC. Yet, when they had to deliver at the end, he did. He took care of the football and wasn't his best performance. But have you been a fan of Goff's, or do you subscribe to the notion that he needs to have Ben Johnson, a great O-line, a great running game, and a great set of weapons to be good?
Yeah, I think he does need a better supporting cast around him to be, a really good quarterback. I think he's a fine quarterback, but I think he's more affected by his surroundings than say obviously the top flight quarterbacks in the NFL that can kind of do it without maybe that help around him. But he definitely is best when he's protected, has the weapons clicking, has the running game going and everything like that, and a good offensive scheme. I don't think there's any question about that. But when he is kept clean, I would say he is one of the best in the NFL. Like you keep him, give him clean pockets, you give him defined reads. His guys are getting open. He's one of the best in the NFL. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's when adversity hits, when pressure comes, that's when things get dicey for him. But again, he did come through it on Sunday Night Football when they were down, and he kind of finally dialed it in and started playing better football. For me, I like Jared Goff as a quarterback. I think he can win you games. Obviously, he's been to the Super Bowl. Last year, they should have gone to the Super Bowl. If his receivers catch a couple of passes, they're in the Super Bowl. So he's a guy that can get you there. I don't know if he's a guy that's going to be the one that wins you the Super Bowl, but he can get you there and play good football as long as he has they have they have the best offensive line in football. So I think he's, I wouldn't call him an elite level quarterback, but he's good enough, I would say.
It's interesting. The folks at your shop at PFF just absolutely love Aiden Hutchinson, have loved him from the get-go. I like to call it the Dave Salfaro effect at times, but let's be honest, he's graded out through the roof. Were you one of those folks that when he got injured and they announced he was done for the year said, nope, without Hutchinson, they can't go to the Super Bowl? Were you thinking that?
No, because you an edge rusher is not going to win or lose you a Super Bowl. He was obviously having a phenomenal season, and I think it obviously increases their chances of getting to Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl when you have him playing and healthy. But that's not the end all be all. You have to be, defense is a weak link kind of chain system, right? So if you have multiple weak links on your defense, doesn't matter if you have an elite level at pass rusher, the deep offense is going to find that weak link in your defense and expose that. What Hutchinson does is just elevates the defense to a different level versus you look at as a Browns fan, you can look at the Browns and how they have Myles Garrett. Browns have a lot of issues on defense this year. Myles Garrett's still playing phenomenal football this year. But the thing is, it doesn't matter because Martin Emerson is having a really bad year. The safeties have had injuries. Their linebackers have had injuries this year. So they've had issues outside of that, and you can't cover that up with this one player. If you have a strong defense overall, having an elite level superstar isn't going to make or break you winning a Super Bowl generally. I mean, obviously you can have situations where like your superstars make plays in the Super Bowl that win you the game. But if you don't have a strong defense overall, it's not going to matter. So I wouldn't. They still have a strong defense, even without Aiden Hutchinson. They just obviously would have been better with him, obviously, in the lineup.
Your thoughts on Zydus Smith coming over? I know you're a Browns fan, so you've seen him now the last couple of years. Good pickup for the Lions, certainly. But what do you think he brings to the table? How much does he have left in the tank?
Yeah, I mean, he's still a good player. He gets pressure after the quarterback. He's grading in the mid-70s this year for the Browns. He's not as good as he was, early in his career. He's 32 years old now, almost 32 years old, something like that.
Yep.
He's not replacing Aiden Hutchinson, but he's definitely another piece where he's not a weak link, and therefore he's going to make that defense stronger because he's going to be a starter. He's going to get pressure after the quarterback, and he can set the edge in a run game as well. So he plays well all around game. And he's not, when you have to sub out, like you're creating that bigger depth for your defensive line. Because when you do lose players on that defensive line, you have injuries. That's when you start getting weak links on that chain. So he's a good player still. He was getting pressure, getting sacks and stuff like that for the Browns. He's only good, and he was a great locker room guy, I'd say as well. So he's only going to be helpful for the Lions this year.
John Kosko with us from Pro Football Focus has now been at PFF. You said, John, over 10 years, right? What's your main responsibility on Sundays?
Yeah, so I'm a lead analyst. That's my official title, and I'm the I guess pass game guy, reviewer, head pass game reviewer, an analyst for us. So my main thing that I do is reviewing, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and cornerbacks for the NFL, and I do that, and I also obviously do everything, but that's kind of like my main job that I do at PFF is making sure that our coverage assignments are correct and everything like that.
And you mentioned Goff before in terms of PFF numbers and where you have him. I know, from a passer rating perspective, he's near the top and has been at the top most of the season. What about from a PFF perspective? Yeah,
so from a grading perspective, during that stretch where he was, playing really phenomenal football, where he didn't throw an interception, had it was maybe 13-1 interception, touchdown to interception ratio, was playing great football. He was grading as the sixth best quarterback in the NFL. One of those reasons that he wasn't grading higher, which maybe Lions fans would say, hey, why isn't he, grading better than, say, it was an 81.2 in his passing grade. As part of it is because he was having a lot of short throws, and his receivers were doing a lot of the dirty work for him to make the yards after the catch. For the entire season, he's not as good. Actually, might shock some people down here, but he's down there at the 65.0 grade, which is 26th in the league, which really, like, the difference between saying 26 and like 18th is, a 65 to a 71. So like there's a large section there of like, you can, move up right into the middle of the pack. You have a couple of bad games in there, which he did early in the season. And obviously this past game was not a good game as well. Over the sample size of just 10 games, it's not a great, you're not going to have a great overall game average or something like that. So yeah, he's not grading the best, like in terms of, hey, you see your passer rating. He's been phenomenal there, obviously, except for one game. So the grades though kind of reflect, hey, he had a lot of shorter throws. His receivers are making a lot of yards after the catch for him.
That's an old Trevor Sycamore move. Remember the big time throw percentage?
Yes.
Yes. Trevor got in trouble with Lion fans in the preseason, John, when he ranked him, I think 15 or 16, and we had Trev on the show, and we love Trevor, and that got a lot of Lion fans angry. I will not put you in that firing squad though today. When we come back with John Kosko, I want to ask him about the rest of the schedule, the rest of the NFC, where the Lions kind of grade out, And a comment that Dan Campbell made, we talked about this before John came on. We'll ask John about it as well, referring to how many games the Lions have left. You'll be interested in that and get John's response after this. Tuesday Locked On Lions proudly brought to you by our friends at Gametime. It is encouraged from Gametime that I mention anytime that I get tickets from Gametime. It's clockwork. It's great. The app is so easy and it's simple. You want tickets to Lions and Jaguars this weekend. You want to get that view from your seat, know exactly where you're sitting, and you get all the upfront costs right there so you don't have any surprises at the end. Do it through Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. That view from your seat is phenomenal, all right? Get a panoramic view right from your seat in the app before you buy so you know you can be comfortable where you're going to sit. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for Lions and Jaguars this weekend with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? You know, it is game time. John Costco with us from Pro Football Focus. Check out his stuff at pff.com as well. Follow him on Twitter at John Kosko, KOSKO3. Interesting stretch that the Lions just went through, John. 4 out of 5 on the road. They had to play in Dallas and Minnesota, in Green Bay and in Houston, and won them all. What does that say about where this team is right now?
I mean, they're playing some of the best football in the NFL right now. They've had multiple blowout victories. They obviously had the come from behind victory against the Texans, which, the Texans obviously without Nico Collins maybe aren't the quite the same as, you'd expect. But man, they came out on firing on all cylinders, and that's still a playoff football team. So they are playing, in my mind, probably the best in the NFL this season. We have them number 2 in our power rankings behind the Chiefs. It is kind of hard to knock them off when you continually win football games like they have. But I'd say that the Lions there are playing as good as anybody in the NFL. The only one hiccup that they have was obviously against the Buccaneers in week 2. And I think, that was even a winnable game for them. So they are playing top-notch football, and you really want to be, hopefully, maybe you want to see some hiccups here in the middle of the season and then learn from that and then go into the playoffs playing as best as you possibly can.
4 of the next 5 at home with Jacksonville, then on the road at Indy, but then Bears, Packers, and Bills all at home. A lot of AFC South that they're going through right now with Houston, obviously, and then the Jags and the Colts. You see this football team. I mean, how many more losses do you see? I mean, could this team finish up 14-3?
I mean, they definitely could, right? You look at, I'd say over the next half of the season, you got the Packers, you've got the Bills, you got the 49ers, and you got the Vikings, I think are the biggest, hurdles that they have, especially at San Francisco in week 17, probably a primetime game there. So they're probably can win, most of these games because we've seen it. But again, you have a divisional round, division games. So you got the Bears twice, you've got the Vikings once, you got the Packers once. Those are going to be tough games because they're always in division games are going to be tough, right? So they definitely could go 14-3. I could see 13-4, that type of a season for them, because it is going to be tough, moving forward for them. With the way we have it in terms of their hardest strength of schedule moving forward is that the 8th hardest schedule moving forward. So they have they should be able to get that first overall seed if they keep on the path, but there's definitely some hiccups that could happen because they have a tough schedule moving forward.
You look at the NFC, and I want to ask you about Lion players in a second in terms of PFF grades, but in terms of the NFC, who's number 2? Lions are number 1, certainly. But in your mind, who's the second best team and who's a threat to get past the Lions in the NFC in your mind?
Yeah, I think right now, like the Eagles are that team. They're playing really good football, and you've got a couple of teams that have the 49ers are always going to be a team that's going to be difficult to get by. They're just getting back Christian McCaffrey as well. So that'll change how they be able to operate offensively. Obviously, they lost Brandon Ayuk, but I don't think they're gonna miss him as much as as getting back Christian McCaffrey for them, because that changes what they can do schematically. Jalen Hurts and that Eagles team, they're playing really well right now. They went into Cincinnati a couple weeks ago and just destroyed the Bengals, especially in the second half. And they're finally, they looked really bad early in the season, and they're looking really strong. And then you got the Commanders, who obviously just lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers by a point, but they're a strong football team. They're playing defensively really, really well. And what Jaden Daniels can do is pretty special from the quarterback position, especially as a rookie. So you got some competition, I'd say, in the NFC. And I haven't even mentioned, obviously the Packers and the Vikings. I don't know if they're playing as strong as they were early in the season, but the Packers have Jordan Love. I think he can get hot at any time. But I don't know if the Vikings are a real threat in the NFC, because I still don't trust Sam Darnold. I just don't.
Give me the name, John, of somebody on the Lions that maybe is a PFF higher grade than maybe fans would anticipate or expect. I mean, we're through 9 games. The team's 8-1. You know who the stars on this team are: Brian Branch and St. Brown and Hutchinson before he got hurt. Of course, Ragnow and Sewell. But is there somebody that maybe you guys like that is graded pretty highly that we'd be surprised about?
I mean, maybe you'd be surprised, maybe not. But Kirby Joseph and Ali McNeil, I think, are two guys on the defensive side of the ball that are playing really good football. Kirby Joseph is 90.6 grade, phenomenal in coverage this year. He's just been really strong in that secondary alongside of Brian Branch. And then McNeil, I know he was highlighted pretty well on Sunday Night Football, and made some really big plays there. But 81.0 overall grade, has really picked it up since Aiden Hutchinson went down. Maybe struggled on in the first couple of games of the season, but has multiple, like 5 games grading over 70 in the last 6 of outings. So over 70 those are good games. So like, I know when maybe, for those that don't know PFF grades, you say, oh, he graded at a 75.0. That's a good game. And I don't think, maybe you'd say, hey, you got a 75 on your test or something like that, or your exam. That's an average grade. Average in our PFF system is more like a 60. So if you're grading in the 70s and above, those are good games, and he's been doing that consistently all year long.
All right, final thing for John Kosko at PFF. Dan Campbell said this morning on the radio, they asked him about the rest of the season. He said, we got 11 games left. I'm thinking, wait a minute, 11 games? They got 8 games left. But he's thinking 8 games, a bye, two playoff games in the Super Bowl. Confidence, cockiness. What do you think of that?
I love it. You've got to be confident, right? You have to have the mentality that, hey, we're gonna be here and win the Super Bowl, because that's the goal, right? Like no team is thinking, hey, we're gonna get through the regular season and then that's it, right? They're thinking, hey, we're getting to the playoffs, we're winning our playoff games, and we're getting into the Super Bowl. So and this team has played like that. So the expectation, I think, how last year ended and how they played so far this year, that's the expectation. And I love the confidence. It's for me, it's confidence, not cockiness.
John Kosko from PFF and close, warm, personal friend of Brett Whitefield's. John, great to have you on the show for the first time, and we'll do it again soon.
Yes, thank you, Matt. It's been a pleasure being on the show today.
You got it. There he is, John Kosko with us from PFF. Don't forget T-Wig, Tony Wiggins, Thursday. Locked on Jaguars. We'll do the crossover. The Jaguars are going to play this game on Sunday and come to Ford Field. We'll talk about that on Thursday. Back again tomorrow.